So thank you, everybody, for sticking around. I know it's been a long day. This is the part where we really get you to interact, though. I'm going to talk a little bit first about the National Park Service. You've heard our name multiple times related to everything. It seems like we do everything. I don't personally do everything, though. I'm ANDREA, Ireland, for those of you who don't know it. And I do not have a PowerPoint because they just asked me to do this like Friday. Okay, sure.
Well, you'll leave time.
And not everybody can be a Brewster, you know. I work for the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program of the National Park Service. That's a really long title. It's a program that goes out into communities and helps them to get projects done. I work, I'm duty stationed in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. How many of you have ever heard of that? Been there? Been there? Nice place. Really ought to go there. It's between Cleveland and Akron. But I don't stay there all the time. I work in communities all over Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania, where I'm doing something in Missouri now. So I get around. And our program, it is an application program. We accept applications or not. And a couple of years ago, the Ohio River Recreation Trail applied for and received a technical assistance grant from the Rivers Trails Conservation Assistance Program, RTCA, so I don't have to say that again. And they were awarded that grant. So it was Russ Clark from the Southeast region. He's from Kentucky. He really wanted to be here today. He's out working on another project. And when I heard that he was working on that, I said, hey, I did some work down in Kentucky. I would really like to be in on the Ohio River Recreation Trail project. So we worked across regions as a team, and we developed, we were a technical assistance program, so we don't come with money, but we like to say that we bring value to your project.
Andrea, could you move a little bit like in the screen? We need to get you in the Zoom screen.
Oh,
There you go.
There's the camera.
oh, there it is. Hi, y'all. Oh, hi, y'all. Okay.
Hi, Wendy.
Let me get my tools here. And so one of the things that we talked about was when the Ohio River Recreation Trail was just getting going, many of you were around. How many people were part of ORRT? Yeah, and the 3 retired guys, yeah, doing all the work and chasing every shiny object. Oh, they wanted to do everything, and they had the energy to do it too. So we tried to focus them in, and we thought, okay, the way to activate the Ohio River is through the towns. And we developed this like a trail town program. There's lots of examples of trail town programs out there, but we decided to focus on river towns. And I'm going to read. And so we had everybody who wanted to do this apply. It's going to be a fresh eyes approach on your river town and how it relates to the Ohio River. Well, as soon as we decided to do this, that's when COVID hit. And Russ and I are technology dinosaurs. So now we're trying to figure out how to do this virtually. But it became even more important that we do it for the communities as we looked at it through the lens of resilience. So if there is another COVID, how are you going to be sustainable through that? And outdoor recreation was so incredibly popular, and we thought, okay, maybe this is a way that they can engage more sustainably using the river, the outdoor recreation resources. And turning back to the river, we were seeing that so many of the communities they have these big levee walls that you've all heard about all day. Or they just weren't programming it. It didn't seem like the river was a safe place or a clean place to recreate. So we went, we started out with 3 communities. We ended up doing 12. And so how many of you here are from a Rivertown Review community and took part in it? Can I get a woo woo for the Rivertown community? Yeah. It was pretty intense. We had to do a desktop review. We had a site visit beforehand during COVID. That's interesting. We did a why you're missing out. We did a community workshop virtually where we asked questions. We learned how to use chat, and then we learned how to use mural software. And I mean, I think it turned out well. What do you guys think who participated? Have you seen value in it?
Yes.
Yes. And so for each of those communities, we then gave them a report with recommendations, initiatives, short-term initiatives, long-term initiatives, and a bunch of resources. So once we had done all 12 of the Rivertown reviews, we put it all together in a summary report. Yay! And we had a Rivertown rendezvous where we got all of the communities together to talk about what we learned as from working with all of these communities. There were many things that were in common. There were some really unique ideas that we wanted to share with people. And we wanted to talk about the overall recommendations, short-term, long-term initiatives that could be realized by any river town. And for that Rivertown rendezvous, we had hoped, we had the document done, but it wasn't printed. So this is the first time that anybody is seeing the printed document. And you all have a copy.
Hold it up.
Thank you, Government Printing Office, for finally coming through. And I really invite you to take a look at it. If you were a Rivertown community, great, you'll see yourself in here. And it is a compilation of all those resources. And if you weren't a Rivertown Review community, there's tons of things in here that can be useful to you. Some of the immediate action items you can do tomorrow. We've been hearing about some of them all day. You know, maybe it's putting up an Ohio River Way sign. That's pretty immediate. Maybe it's going to the Lewis and Clark site, getting your businesses on there. There's a lot of immediate action items, and the appendix in this is worth its weight in gold. Lots of resources for you to explore, to use your community to reconnect with the river. So our theme was connecting communities and promoting outdoor recreation. So we're really proud of this. It couldn't have happened without the help of the Ohio River Recreation Trail team at the time. Brewster, David, Jack Sutton, I think he's gone now, and Francis. And then every community had a community contact. Thank you all for helping out with that. And this can continue. We are developing a model. This has been promoted nationally through our program, and we are developing a toolkit that anybody can use on their own Rivertown with the templates, the instructions of how to do it. I think what's really important about this is getting fresh eyes on your community. Having somebody else come in and see what's important about your town, that fresh eyes approach. You know, we say sometimes a prophet's never known in their own land. You could be saying, oh, we really need a kayak launch here, for saying it for 10 years. But somebody from the outside comes in and says, oh, this would be a perfect place for a kayak launch. Guess what? All of a sudden, it's a great idea. So that fresh eyes approach, the toolkit, be looking for that. Let me see here.
So what we collectively did in partnership with the National Park Service in this region with those 12 communities with the Rivertown Review became the national model for the Park Service using the same process all over the country.
Wow.
Right? Am I right?
Yeah.
I just want to underscore that. Thank you for your leadership. Yeah.
And we are now presenting that at the River Symposium and at the International Trails Summit as a model for ways to communicate or to connect outdoor recreation and to your community.
So to further connect the dots to Mayor Cotterell's Maysville 1.6 million came from, in many ways, many connections that she made locally. But they did a Rivertown review that we set up through the Ohio River Way, which trickles back in. And I love the fact that her history of it doesn't even have the Ohio River Way in it. But we were very much connected in the connection of all that, which is great, but that just drives value. Another thing about this Rivertown review process is the communities in Ohio we're looking at, the ones that have not yet done it in Ohio are thinking about doing it for securing some of the Appalachian funding that's available through the state of Ohio, because everyone has seen how much value the river provides for them through the deep dive that this process did for them.
Right, yeah, and looking at your community in a whole new way, when we did the Rivertown Rendezvous, when we got everybody back together, and we heard from people like Mary Allen and Sean Dunn about how the changes that they have made, whether they were short or inspiring them to go for some of these bigger grants and getting money or funding that maybe wasn't on their radar screen before. So we definitely saw the impacts of that. Right? Okay, so if you read your agenda, you'll see that we're kind of going off track here. But so the Ohio River Recreation Trail, which has morphed beautifully into the Ohio River Way, we did do some organizational development, some vision, mission planning stuff, and they saw where they needed to go. And fortuitously, the Ohio River Way opportunity came up. And they have embraced it so incredibly. Just what's been done in the last 2 years to have all of you people here is really an amazing task, and I'm just so proud of you guys. In fact, David, if you could come up, where's Wix? You around?
He's still playing with my hair. Where's the project?
We have we work on a lot of projects simultaneously, and Russ Clark and I really have enjoyed this project so much. And you guys have been such great partners that we would like to present you with this Partner Excellence Award from RTCA. Because we really value you guys as partners, and I know that you're really bummed that we're not going to keep working together, but we probably won't go very far. But I'd really like to present you with this award.
Oh, very nice. This is on behalf of all of you.
So the RTCA program is designed, you're supposed to graduate out. So we've been trying to keep her, but we're not allowed, we have to graduate from whatever stage we're in and move on to the next one. But we'll always have the support of the National Park Service. And thank you very much for all that you've done for us.
While we're giving plaques out. So we have a little one that's not wood and it's not recyclable, et cetera, in that regard, but to honor and express our appreciation to you. And we also love for Russ.
Oh, good.
You even have your name on it.
Thank you. I didn't even have to become a charter member. Kind services. Thank you very much. But we work on a lot of projects, and I can tell you, I've never given a Partner Excellence Award to one of my projects. So we love you guys. So they're moving on in big ways, as is evidenced by here. And, I was taking notes furiously through this whole program today, because every single speaker, every single topic related to the work that we did through the Rivertown Reviews, or that we were working with Ohio River Recreation Trail. I don't know how you guys did it. Every single speaker was spot on. Can you agree? Like, it was just amazing. So they're going to be continuing this good work and moving into the next phases of their work. Francis is going to talk a little bit about what that is, but I want you to be thinking about the piece of paper that was passed down to you for how you can be involved. Because I'm going to come back to you and it's going to be interactive. And I don't want to be up here standing here talking all by myself. So we're looking for your ideas. What did you hear today that you resonated with? We didn't have many opportunities to hear from you about your ideas or what inspired you by what the people were saying. So we're going to get to that. So give you a few minutes to think about that. And
so very briefly, before the conference, we, in your agenda or your program, we had thoughts about what's next for the Ohio River Way. And we are, those of you who have become charter members, we have recognition for you for that, but charter members, we will continue on with our membership drive. It's important for our funding, if we go for funding regionally, that we all literally invest in, there's your match dollars to an extent, in a coalescing around the effort. So one, we're going to continue to push our membership drive, if you will, hiring staff and getting moving on that. We've been talking about doing that for a few years, but it's a lot to do. And so we would love to hire some staff, recruiting more members. I'm sure there are people who should be in this room that aren't here. Maybe they just haven't heard of us yet, or we haven't gotten to them yet. Who's not here that should be here? Creating a master plan that gets back to some of the funding stuff we were talking about. Literally a plan for the structure of the river, routing out on land where the trail would go. Activating against our signage plan that we started last summer, and we have portions of it out, but we could brand the river, we could turn it into NASCAR if we wanted to go that far. National and regional designations, which the tourism folks was excited about. I'm just reading quickly through here because raising awareness, I think we've got an image and a perception issue that we need to continue to tackle with regards to water quality and all that.
we're going to get to all those things.
Yeah, so plus all the ideas that came up today, that were fresh.
Closer.
Oh, so then I'm on screen. All the ideas that
Let the
came up
people
today.
on Zoom know that there's about 2,000 people in the audience right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So all the fresh ideas that came up today. So we really need your engagement, and that's what Andrea is going to get back into with regards to where we're heading. How can we coalesce around where we're going to go next in addition to our coalition meetings? We have been talking about, we have been doing them monthly, and we're going to, we paused them over the summer. We'll reignite them, I think, for the third Thursday of the month at 10, like for all 10 o'clock works. Yes, 10 o'clock in the morning, third Thursday of the month. People will get a meeting invitation. We'll put it on but it'll be monthly. And so instead of by Zoom, yes, not necessarily in person, annually in person, but yes. So Andrea, I'm going to send it back to you for our checklist.
Right, so you do have a checklist here. Remember what Jim Mallory said so eloquently? It was perseverance, shared responsibility, pride, and accomplishment. And I feel like that was a theme going throughout everything that everybody talked about today. So this is where you come in, and we do have a checklist, and we would like you to turn it back into us. And if you think of ideas after you turn it in today, you can always email us. But we would like to just kind of go down the list and give some of your ideas or your degree of commitment. You can check a box if this is something that interests you, that you would like to maybe be on a committee or help out with or contribute some ideas to. And then also your ideas. And what Francis said about who else should be in the room, we ask that at every meeting, every community meeting. Who else isn't here that should be here? I really feel like they hit everything today in a very significant way. But who else should be here? You know, it was interesting because, just as an aside, when we were doing the Rivertown review, we got about halfway through and we're like, we didn't include the Underground Railroad in this. And it was like a little moment. We did include Lewis and Clark, but I don't know why we didn't think of that flying under our radar. So it was good that they're involved now. So pursuing large scale resources as a region. Do you have any comments about that? I think that it's not just about money, although it's important, but also the large scale resource of each other and sharing those resources, connecting communities, promoting outdoor recreation. Anybody else? Ideas about funding? Do you understand how, as a whole, we can go further, faster? I think that's what Brewster always says.
By working better together.
Yes, by working better together, we can go further, faster. Okay. Back. In the back?
We have, or do we have members from the tugboat operators in here that have resources such as, dredging equipment, that kind of stuff that can help improve?
Bill?
I'm just gonna repeat that just so that people on Zoom can hear. So a question about tugboat and dredge facility, dredge providers, also in the conversation. And I think the answer is,
Bill?
we have one right over here, but certainly we need more than one.
Well, if I could just say that just so you know, we have a partnership with ORBA, which is the Central Ohio River Business Association. And Bill was one of their key representatives. And the president of that organization was here for half the day today, but they represent all the barge lines, the rail lines, insurance companies, the tank farms, but the business people who operate with us on the Ohio. Correct? Bill? Okay, good. But the answer is yes, we have connections. We can help connect you to them, who then in turn can connect you to maybe entities that can be hired out to do dredging in certain communities if you need, whatever.
Overall, I wasn't aware that they were here, so.
Yeah.
Great.
And we are very active as participants in Corba as well. Jerry Schulte and I try to attend, Jerry over here, try to attend meetings on a regular basis, representing us to the industry.
One business group that's not here could be hospital networks and healthcare networks that are not necessarily in this room, but we do have relationships with. So we should bring them more into the fold, especially if we're talking about large. That could be a way of solving the regional funding to get a big sponsorship from a nice healthcare network.
The other aspect of that in particular, Francis, is health departments. Is anybody here from the health department? I work with the health department in almost every project that I do because they have a lot of data. They could help you with your image issues about safety, water quality, and they also have funding. So health departments, and they're in the healthy recreation, not just mental health, but physical, outdoor recreation, health initiatives as well. And related to the barge and tug traffic on the Cuyahoga River, we have a Cuyahoga River Safety Task Force, which is engaging with industry for safety reasons. That barge is not going to stop for your kayak, but we have, and it used to be a very adversarial relationship, but working together, we've come out with much, much better results. Yes. Go ahead.
Each community needs to have their anyone can get medical help on their side.
She says each community needs to have where people can get medical help if there's an emergency. And your first responders should be well aware of your activities on the water trail because that's their job. So working together with them is a good relationship.
And just ironically enough, Lane, who was probably the youngest guy who was here today, he was sitting in the back. We met Lane, he works for the fire department, I think it's a volunteer fire department in Beebe. And when we were paddling through, he hooked up with us and they provided dinner for us and he went with us for a whole day. We sort of stole him for Beebe. So, but he came today, which was great, on his own time, on his day off. But there's a first responder who has a great relationship with the rest of his colleagues in Beebe. So it's pretty cool that happens, right?
Right, and to make those connections, right.
A couple of groups that may be part of your system, Brewster, I don't know, but I'll ask it in the question, is with the increased recreational activity on the system, is how do Boone County, Kenton County, Fire and Rescue, how does Cincinnati Fire and Rescue, how have they been part of this group? And or should they be looked into? And then I got one more question.
Well, Jerry Schulte is the safety director for Paddle Fest, and he's the guy who works with the Coast Guard and those safety forces. And we have a good relationship on that particular event and the swim event, for example. Go ahead.
Exactly, and I answered the question. I don't really think they've been directly involved. But I do believe that at least not with the overall Ohio Riverway effort, but as Brewster points out, you know, with Paddle Fest, yes, we're in constant communication with them there. Regarding safety aspects, though, when you're on the river, you should always, if there's ever an emergency need, you should always first try 911. And you'd be surprised how much cellular cover there is on the river, and 911 is going to give you your best first option. We do have a coverage in the digital guide for emergency services.
That section needs built out in terms of where emergency services are in each community. So we've got a few in Boone County, we've got some further down. That particular data point in the digital guide needs more. So if you haven't entered those for your community, go in and add it, adjust the new point and put those emergency services. Absolutely.
Can I see your mic?
That brings up the other question on what you were saying. So you call 911, if you have.
There's a question online.
The digital guide open, river miles are in there. You can tell them where you're at on the river.
And if not using the river miles, the communities, I'm opposite Moscow, Ohio, or I'm opposite West Point, Kentucky.
But I think that one of the things that Bill's talking about is how do we get those entities more engaged with us, not just in helping with individual events or in emergencies, but in collaborating more. Yeah. And that's something we need to do better.
So there,
And just add, when you're doing that, and men and women in blue and the Coast Guard.
so there is a question from the Zoom room, which is Eric Oberg with Rails to Trails, who has been, there are some been dedicated people on all day long on Zoom. Imagine that. You guys are awesome. Just a comment, if there are large scale regional implementation projects to build, then yes, I think it's a good idea to do this for large scale. Projects that truly make a difference and matter, though, are the ones that have that are bigger than just a small collection of tiny projects, like a bunch of tiny projects put together could make a bigger impact. He also says if there's there's a plan for a comprehensive land corridor study for a complementing multi-use trail along the entire river of the Ohio Riverway, that could be a competitive planning grant application, which is what we've been touching on a little bit too. We don't have that in our hands. Lots of communities have. Now, this is not necessarily exactly what but like say, for example, Louisville and Cincinnati, they have their plan, but what you need to do is mush them together and call it the Ohio Riverway and put the linkages between them.
Is Eric volunteering?
Eric says he's gonna get us all the money.
Thanks, Eric.
All right. She had a question.
Just to think about who else could be in the room, some of the riverboat cruise companies. You know, I know, I mean, somebody mentioned, you know, taking the cruises down the Danube and over in Europe, and I think that can happen more on the rivers in the US as well. And I know there are some river cruise companies already, and maybe they could be a part of this as well.
I'm pushing the sound because other people online can't hear us if we're not, that's why that's a good point. And I think David Wicks and Brewster are familiar with the cruise providers. And Bill Swanson.
Folks in our network, especially Janet Hunt are, but that's a really good point.
I have a question. Is there a role for the gaming industry, the casinos that are located on the river to be a part of this initiative?
I think that's a fantastic funding idea.
This building is part of the proceeds from our gaming industry.
Well, and we like to think, when we did the Rivertown reviews, we wanted them to think outside their boundaries of their community to connect resources. And that's something else that casinos could do as well, because maybe if somebody's coming to go to the casino in the evening, maybe they still want to do something during the day. Maybe they're multi-recreational. Yeah, Richard.
I would like to suggest that from Hamilton, I'd like to suggest. I'm Richard Bonnie at Indiana Greenways, and I would like to suggest that there be a rail with trail consideration from Hamilton, Ohio, south. I want to bring something from Connersville and Brookville, and that would loosely be rail with trail, but to converge on Cincinnati and then follow Cincinnati, Maysville, Portsmouth onto Ashland and Huntington, if not east from there, but at least along there, so that any hikers or bicyclists, and I'm not sure what hiking and bicycling routes there are along the Kentucky side or the near Ohio side of that portion of the Ohio River, where the Amtrak Cardinal train runs 50 and 51. But if there is, and somebody gets tired, rained out, whatever, that they could then get on a train with their bike or with their backpack and go to a larger city or go someplace. But for the mere cost of $25, which is just paid to get a bike on to Amtrak, when there's immediate relief there, if they can get on Portsmouth, Maysville, Cincinnati, and then if we were to go to Ashland and or Huntington. So a rail with trail, think of those words, rail with trail suggestion.
Or I'm just watching this, I sat there all day and this was behind me and I didn't even like get to appreciate it. And there's a barge going by, so why not boat and barge or bike and barge, right? Multi-transportational.
Really, the American line does run its ships up here for river boats. And I thought it was interesting that, since the really missed the Delta Queen and its trips up the river, and some of that was nostalgic, thinking about one that I was on once. But I'm also thinking that for the cities along the way, along the river, when the cruise river boats are coming up, there ought to be a little more publicity around that. I'm always surprised when the really big ones show up and you had no idea.
Another attraction on the Ohio River Way.
Another thing we used to use in New York when the Hudson was in such a mess, we used to use music at the place. And we used to publicize the music and the coming of the barge or the whatever it was. And that's those days it was the Pete Seeger. I mean, Pete Seeger wasn't that well known in those days.
Calliope is a really nice kind of music.
Calliope is a nice kind of music, right? Or those river shanty songs. Along the lines of trails, bikes, and I know that is eventually part of the braided network to have this be the Ohio River Way corridor. That was part of the reason why they called it the Way instead of the Ohio River Water Trail, right? Okay, so thank you for sharing on all of that. How about state designations? I'm gonna talk just a little bit about that. I know it's been a major goal. There are certain benefits that come with designation as far as laying claim, being nationally recognized or state recognized. It's also very good when you're applying for funding that you can say these things. Signage, it also comes with signage. Now, as far as water trails, first of all, do y'all know what makes a water trail a water trail?
They have water.
Right, it's out there, right? So we already have the trail, but what makes it a usable water trail are things like education, maps, signage, safety, branding,
Access points.
and branding, designated access points. So as you're going down the river, you know where you can get off. And that's what makes it a water trail. Now, the state of Ohio has a designation program, and currently I think there's 17 state designated water trails. The state of Indiana does not have a state designating one, although they recognize water trails. And Kentucky does not have a state designation program.
So that means that Mark Allen from ODNR is the top guy in charge of trails for the state, right? Basically, you run the show, dude. We need to be working with you because apparently Indiana and Kentucky don't have the ability to do that. So work, over the next few months to get at least the Ohio section of the Ohio Riverway officially designated.
Work on that.
Good, okay, good. Not more state hands. You get stuff done, but thank you so much for being here. It's great.
And there's quite a bit of work that has to go into that. I've done 2 state designated water trails. There's a lot of work. But sure, we'll get there. I know you will. It'll be worthy. And then there's a national water trail designation, which is really much more intense, and it has best management practices that you have to meet in terms of things like maintenance, recreation, planning, conservation, education. And that goes through a pretty stringent review committee too. So that designation is a little bit harder to get. I don't think you're there yet, but in the meantime, we are encouraging people to apply for the National Recreation Trail Program designation. There were some brochures out there. I think everybody took them. So that is an application that is due on November 1st each year. It also goes through a review process, but it's not as stringent as the National Water Trail. And water trails, equestrian trails, bike trails, they can all apply for an NRT designation. You get that sign and you get the honor of being a part of the national recreation trails of the country.
And so I'm glad you raised this. This is a lot of work. The application is pretty doggone long. It's not as detailed as the National Water Trail designation process, right, Mark? But it does require us working with each community from Ironton to West Point to get the information that's required about exactly where is each boat ramp, how far apart are they, what conditions are those ramps in, what's the maintenance plan for those boat ramps, for access to for parking, for handicap facilities, for restrooms, correct?
Resolutions by communities.
So
that they want to
every
be able to
community
do.
will have to pass a resolution up and down the trail that officially says, yes, we want to be officially designated our stretch of the Ohio Riverway as part of this national recreation trail. If 1 or 2 communities don't cooperate, we're in trouble. So that's about 35 different resolutions. And when you add the counties, it's another, 20 or so. So it's a big challenge, but it means a lot of work by each of you, but we add it all together, it'll work. But then we'll be on the national website for the Department of Interior. They'll promote us at the national level. There are about 220 trails that are called national recreation trails, correct? Approximately, but there are only 31 national water trails. The Great Miami River is an official national water trail. They did it, but they have far fewer communities to collaborate with. So.
Right. Great. And a lot of trails out there want to be national water trails. seems like every project I get into, they're like, we want to be a national water trail. Well, you have to have a water trail first. That's the main thing. You can't just say, I want a national water trail and have it be done. Yes.
What's sort of been a national water trail and a national historic trail like Lewis and Park?
Well, that's a good question for Jim. A national historic trail is a different set. I think there's 28 designations within the National Park Service of different kinds of trails, monuments, sites. And the National Historic Trail is based on history.
Okay, so if we want to promote our cultural assets like the archaeological sites, that we have to expand our definition of water. I mean, we have to do that ourselves. People go to the website, they go to the water, they're looking for recreation, but they're also going to find out about UNESCO designation, all of the things you can do near the water or on the water.
Right.
Okay.
So if we become a national recreation trail, easier than being a national water trail, what we can do is say, in addition to all these recreational assets, the boat ramps, et cetera, we also will be marketing all the cultural and historical points of interest. And in fact, ideally have a whole separate Underground Railroad tour with sample like 5-day, 3-day, whatever, underground, I mean, a whole separate Native American or American Indian historical trail, recognizes all the assets called, for the Native American community. Same thing with the bourbon and brewery and winery trail. We can do a Main Street trail, right? All these could be part of the National Recreation Trail.
Maybe the National Recreation Trail is a better designation. You want to promote all these other assets.
Right.
But what publicity do we lose if we don't go for the top designation of water trail?
And National Water Trail is not necessarily the top designation of all trails, but for a river and a water trail, it would be. But we just said that the Ohio Riverway is so much more than just a water trail too. So I think going for the MRT makes more sense. And then when you have your great water trail built, then you can go for that, and all those other pieces are in place. And think about some other designations. You mentioned like Underground Railroad, and also Scenic Byway. The Scenic Byway, we didn't really talk about that too much, but it's in Ohio, it's in Indiana, it's in Kentucky. So that's another layer that you can include on your MRT application. That'll benefits your effort. Okay, marketing. I've heard lots of talk about, from Brewster, about putting a calendar together of events that are happening. So, I think after listening to the tourism panel, that there definitely could be a tourism working group or committee or caucus to get together to look at things as a whole and leverage each individual community's events.
Well, just imagine if it's like the red schedule, if we had the Ohio Riverway event schedule for 2023, we start putting it out in December, or February, whatever. But these are the top 50 events going on during the course of spring, summer, and fall along the Ohio Riverway. Wouldn't that be cool?
Right.
And then the trick is everybody markets it because it's in everybody's interest that people know about all the events that are going on up and down the river. So we have to let you all know, okay, each community, what are your top 5 events? And then the caucus, the tourism team will go through all those and pick out which ones they think meet the standard to be like the really blockbuster events. We have 153 events that were on our online web calendar for the High Riverway this past season. So if we take the top 50 or 60,
Right. I also heard some ways to leverage connecting. So we are about promoting outdoor recreation, connecting communities, and we always said in our Rivertown reviews, think upstream, think downstream, because whoever's upstream could be coming downstream, and you're sending people down the river. So making those connections between communities to leverage each other's assets. And I heard about a passport program, itineraries, like triptychs that you can do a 2-day or a 3-day. those passport ideas, like the Bourbon Trail. And I say all trails lead to beer. Okay, all trails can lead to bourbon too, I suppose. So that would be one way to leverage everybody's assets. I'm going to remind you to please put your ideas, even if you're not sharing them with me, put them on the piece of paper to share with us. Things that you think are good or areas where you would like to help.
This is the idea box.
Okay, so when you leave.
Help with box.
Improving the image and perception of the Ohio River. So we heard a great talk from Chris, pretty technical, but that the water quality is good, can be very good, is of recreational use, is fishable and swimmable on most days. And changing that image, I think, goes a long way. One of the things that we learned in the Rivertown reviews too was, what is the image that you're sharing of the Ohio River? Is it the industry? Is it what people don't see because it's behind the levee wall? What are people from the river seeing of your town? What's that image look like? And then Rising Sun has that amazing amphitheater. What a riverfront. So what's the image that you're projecting? And then what pictures are you using in your tourism brochures, advertising, educational pieces about what the river looks like? And what kind of events are you having? You've heard them say, tie it into the river, tie it into the river. Maybe you have a run and the run doesn't go anywhere near the river. Put them over the other side of that flood wall. Let them see what's down there. Portsmouth does a really good job of that, by the way. Anybody else have comments on that? Improving the image. And I think all of the other things we heard today about so many things, so many partners and potential, I think that all contributes to improving the image too.
I think we ought to get Anastasia Milam from Experience in Cincinnati and PR from Louisville and other big cities to really reframe the story of the quality of our water. You almost need a PR firm to change that image. If you go to Wikipedia and it tells you right there, we're the most polluted river in America. I mean, that's crazy. We got to get on that right away.
Right. So his idea for the people on Zoom was to engage some larger PR firms or the larger tourism groups in those big cities to provide a better image, work on the image.
One of the things that I have been talking about, I'm with the Village Brickley. Before I took the job in public administration, I foolishly spent about 35 years in the media business. So I could tell you that TV stations especially, you have to keep knocking on the door. You have to continue to talk to them and be in touch with them about events like this. I think that an event like this, where you have people from 3 states coming together, there should have been some media coverage of this event today. And it would have been an easy sell if they had been reached out to. I don't know if anybody's reached out to them. I don't know if that's somebody's job. I'm not trying to criticize anybody or anything, but a regional marketing strategy for us is, I think, paramount, because I've talked to some of you individually. If I say the Ozarks, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think that that's something should be planted in minds for our area as well. And marketing takes money and time, and that's a lot of things. Those are 2 things that smaller communities don't have. So the more collaboratively we can work and the more we can continue to push that rock up the hill, the more successful we'll be.
Exactly. And yes, exactly. Excuse me. And having that, like, the Park Service, we have a public information officer who makes those direct contacts, is focused on the media, has the list, knows how to send the press release, knows who to call, or ping them with an email to say, hey, you would really want to be here. That's a lot of work, but cumulatively, I think that you could make it happen, and that could be a part of your
I was just gonna ask if maybe Ohio River Way could help put together some educational material about the safety of the river. And then like our utility department could go talk to students about what we do in Maysville. And then, but if they had that technical assistance with information to the students in a language that they would understand, that could be helpful.
Yeah, that gets to the idea that Brewster percolated earlier today with the ambassadors for the communities. How about we create ambassadors for the Ohio River Way? And one of the things that the ambassadors need to be able to do is answer that question that always gets raised. My children did it to me too. Mom, you were out on the river, did it smell? You know, that sort of stuff. But we need to be able to talk to people in an educated way, and being an ambassador of the Ohio River Way is similar thought of that in that same vein. And from mayor to mayor, we're going downstream and upstream here.
Wouldn't that best be done through the water companies? They're all drinking this water. They're all purifying the water. They're all dealing with it. They know what the quality of the water is, and they could be stuffing the water bill and telling everybody really quick. Speak into the microphone.
Yeah, so the suggestion is why don't we promulgate that information through people's water bills, through their water resources? When you get your bill, it should say something about the value and the quality of the water that you're drinking. My community does that to an extent, but it's not, I would say, I don't know that I ever really see it sourced here. They just talk about how clean they made it once it gets to them.
Not for recreation.
Yeah, Jerry Schulte, do you have something to say, formerly of Orsenco, do you have something to say about
Yeah,
the water
really,
quality?
formerly Orsenco is the operative concept here. Orsenco does provide a tremendous amount of water quality information on their website. And literally all of this environmental, human health, water quality data is available river-wide. So if there is a lack of distribution of that information, contact Orsenco. Richard Harrison was here earlier today. We have some representatives from the Foundation for Ohio River Education, which is an offshoot of Orsenco. They can provide all of the water quality information you need. And I think coming up with an ambassador program based on, certain parameters, one of which naturally would be water quality, is an excellent idea.
Well, let me ask this question. Thank you, Jerry. I appreciate it. A couple things. One, Carrie, raise your hand again. Carrie Blackmore Smith is a freelance reporter, used to be with the Enquirer. She did a big story in Cincinnati Magazine a couple of years ago about paddling with us down from Louisville to Cincinnati, Louisville. And you're here to do an update on that story for Cincinnati Magazine, right? So that's very helpful, but we need to have 20 of Carries in order to get this message out. And maybe what we need to do, Wayne, is to try to find 4 or 5 people who would be the marketing committee that would think through what is it that we need to do to help straighten out the story about the Ohio River water quality and the assets we have. Yes.
There are always organizations that are asking for the attention of the television stations, and they only have so many crews to go around. So you essentially have to sell your story to them before they will come out and cover it. So that's the key.
Well, one of the things that we found is like we get all the TV, Jerry's the media coordinator for the Ohio River Swim and the Ohio River Paddle Fest. And we get every TV station covering us days in a row, 3 times live as we put the boats in. And nothing beats communicating that the river is much safer and healthier and cleaner than people think when folks are climbing out of the Ohio River, having just swum across it over and back. And people will say, oh, the river was so beautiful today, and they're dripping wet. And it's like, oh my God, didn't you die? No, I'm still alive. In fact, I feel better than ever. So the question then becomes, can we do like, I think that Sean suggested this, another great, brilliant idea.
I don't know if this is on, but 2 things. One is talking to the mic because people on the line can't hear a thing you're saying. The second thing is, I think sometimes we're over-reliant on scientific facts. I'm a fan of science, don't get me wrong. I spent my career in it, but people are not influenced by facts often. It really is
The experience.
the art and the culture that drive people. You know, you think about the photographs and the beautiful, you know, we heard from Augusta this morning. I go out and take a photograph every morning of the beautiful sunset and sunrise, you know, and people do that. And we're moved by the arts. We're not moved by scientific data. You know, and it's great to have scientific data available, don't get me wrong, and I think we should have it more comprehensive, and I think we should have a major deal. In Louisville, our public radio, they have a wonderful deal called the Ohio Valley Resource, and it's an NPR funded deal, and that's the source of this latest stories about how much stuff is dumped into our rivers. So it's a public radio deal. It's not, you know, it's not all different, you know, in that case it is. But all I'm saying is, let's think about the arts.
Right,
And it's really communicating one on.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the experiences. I'm not sure that a TV station is gonna come out because the water quality is good today, but they are gonna come out because, you know, 600 people put their boats in the water. So how we can convey that, and that's what.
I'm glad we got everybody talking. We can continue to talk about it in a few minutes when we go to our after party, however.
Oh, just really quickly, you know, being from a smaller community, I think it's also important to, in the marketing aspect, take advantage of those smaller local news, the online news, the 812 in Dearborn County, WKM News in Madison. People love, and at least in rural Indiana, follow that, love the stories that they produce. So it's important. While there's the news stations, I think remembering those online news stations, the online radio stations, those are vital, I think, in getting the words out.
I have the perfect example. We were working in Missouri. A reporter came out with us. We were there for a site visit. We had one meeting and we had a 2.5-page spread of pictures. I didn't know they were taking pictures that whole time. They ate that up. They loved it.
Also, social media, if everyone in this room followed each other and shared each other's events that were going on, imagine, I mean, you know how many friends you have, the next one has, and it will get people traveling out of the area. I know if I see someone, report something from Maysville, maybe I'm going to be willing to go to Maysville for the weekend, right? And vice versa.
We'll take a
Shout out from Maysville.
All right, and the last one, well, improving access opportunities for everyone. We heard a lot of things today that can improve access for everyone. Programs, different amenities will increase access. All the good work that Groundwork is doing, an adventure crew. And, you know, think about diversity, not just in terms of color, but of age and abilities and access to the river. There's a lot of different ways that you can engage. Maybe people who don't do outdoor recreation, you know, what are ways that you can engage with them? It's just sitting by the river and enjoying the river, and maybe they have stories to tell. All right, and then the last one is, would you like to participate in a monthly Ohio Riverway Coalition meeting via Zoom to stay up to date on developments?
That's no plan.
So please put your responses in the highly formal response box. It's gonna go right into my car or somebody else's car, and we will make sure you get invited and included in all of that. We have just a few more things. We want to say thank you very, very much to our sponsors who helped make this day possible. Thank you.
Yeah.
We had Mike Perlberg here, who is with our Ohio Riverway Board and our local connection, and he's the reason why we're all in Lawrenceburg today. We would like to give you a very special Enjoy gift card to the restaurant where we ate last night. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And there's
your ice house right down there.
your ice house. The buffalo chicken flatbread was very good. And then I'm going to turn it over to Richter to tell us where we're headed next. But housekeeping again. Well, one more thing. If you
have a handwritten name tag. That means you paid or showed up today, and we don't really know who you are, and we weren't tracking that you're here. So could you, I'll put a sign up in the front, or send me a note if you, we want to make sure we don't lose you, because we were not tracking the day of folks. So see me in the hallway, and Brewster's gonna close us out.
Well, and what a great event, right? I mean, this was so good. Really, very well done.
So folks, do you think it went pretty well?
Yes.
It was rewarding to be on. I learned a whole lot, and I thought I knew it all, but obviously not. So, thank you so much for coming to this, and for being part of this important event. With Sean's help, we'll do maybe the Ohio River paddling series. Imagine if we had 8 events during the course of the summer just for paddling. Imagine if we had the Ohio River, cycling series, taking the existing events, not making new ones up. From Portsmouth and Ironton all the way down to West Point of cycling events, the cycling series. Maybe we do a fishing series. Rising Sun has the biggest catfish tournament in America. Biggest in America, right down to Rising Sun. Huge, but that's one of a number of fishing tournaments on the Ohio River. Getting people to get engaged with it tells the best story. So thank you so much, folks. Mike, tell us where we are going to have, not on our dime, but on yours, but on my severe, some refreshment to celebrate the end of this wonderful day.